Today we're going to talk about AeroPress Espresso in this little gadget here called the Joe Presso. Even though I normally say that you can't make anything close to espresso with an AeroPress, there's always been some kind of weird connection between the two. The Joe Presso is a new gadget. It's kind of like the Prismo, and it claims that it can actually turn the AeroPress into a proper espresso maker. But is that really the case? Let's test it and find out. A few days ago I got this in the mail. This is a pre-production model of a new gadget called the Joe Presso. Joe Presso is a startup product on Kickstarter. At the moment they're not fully funded, so it's uncertain whether it will ever be more than just a prototype. Normally I'm not that interested in crowdfunding products. There's a long history of coffee products on Kickstarter that didn't really deliver. Some brands have gone out of business before fulfilling the orders, some have been super delayed, and others have just been kind of disappointing in real life. So it's with all these caveats in the back of your mind that you should watch this little review here. Normally I wouldn't bother talking about a product at this early stage, but I feel that the Joe Presso is a little bit different. First of all, this is something that plugs directly into the AeroPress ecosystem. So I know a lot of people are gonna be pretty interested in this one. Secondly, I saw some early videos on Instagram which seemed extremely promising, so I reached out to Roman, the guy behind Joepresso, quite early on to say that I would be interested in trying the product. So let me find my AeroPress and we'll start brewing some espressos with this one here, and we'll see whether it's a product worth backing. So this thing is actually pretty simple. You have a traditional AeroPress cap where there's a hole that can fit a basket, and then you have this little pressurized basket here that can take 14 grams of coffee, and then there's a dispersion screen and a gasket to put on top so the water won't run out on the sides. Pressurized baskets are a little bit different from normal espresso baskets because you don't control the resistance and timing of the shot with the grind size. Instead, the basket will slow down the shot and help create that pressure. So this is a little bit easier for beginners, but the taste usually isn't that refined compared to the real thing. So let's try to dose it with 14 grams of coffee. I have my scale. And then you can use the AeroPress funnel here. It kind of like fits in, so don't make a mess. I'm using a pretty dark roasted traditional coffee with some Robusta. So it should give some nice crema if it's possible to make. You just massage it into place here. Okay. And you can see the grind size actually isn't that fine. So pressurized baskets take a coarser grind than normal espresso baskets. In the instruction videos I've seen, they just use the screen here to tamp the coffee. So that's what I'm gonna do. Apparently a 51mm tamper would also fit, but my tampers are either too big or too small for this size, so I'm just gonna use this one here. Okay, and then you will put this one into this kind of like modified AeroPress cap here. And then we have a gasket we place on top. This, you just put it on your AeroPress like this here. So more or less like you would with a normal AeroPress cap. And then make sure to get a good twist. And then we have a pressurized basket on the AeroPress. I think it can fit on this cup here. And then in the instructions they suggest brewing at a 1:2 ratio. So they say that you should pour in 43 grams of water because it will have a liquid retained ratio of 1. So we pour that in and then just press to the end, and then we'll end up with our 1:2 ratio. 43 grams. Oh, all right, 44. And then They suggest 10 seconds of pre-infusion, so we're just gonna hold it here for a little bit. Okay, 10 seconds pre-infusion, and now we'll begin the extraction. Okay, let's have a look. This actually looks pretty good. Kind of foamy compared to normal crema, but yeah, this is legit crema. This is not like the fake kind of foam. Okay, let's taste. That's the real test. Oh. It has a nice mouthfeel. The texture is quite good. It doesn't have that clarity and acidity that you get from non-pressurized baskets, but the texture on the body is definitely nice. So for me, this is pretty interesting. Before, I would have said that you cannot make espresso with the AeroPress, but in my book, this qualifies as real espresso. For sure, it tastes better than what you get in some second-wave coffee shops. I would take this over Starbucks any day. This here is a pressurized basket, which in an ideal world isn't perfect, but you can still control the other variables. If you have some nice fresh coffee and you have good water and a clean AeroPress, then I think you'll get good results. Maybe if you're a hardcore espresso snob and you're geeking out at home with lever espresso machines and all that kind of stuff, then this is probably not what you're looking for. But if you're a person who has an AeroPress and you want to make more legit espresso without getting into that crazy rabbit hole, which for sure will cost more than $1,000, then I think this is actually a pretty good option. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the alternatives. So to put this in perspective, the fellow Prismo, the one we have here, is probably the closest thing on the market today. It's also a cap that you put on your AeroPress, and then there's pressure involved in the brewing, and you kind of like get an espresso thing. Personally, I was never really that excited about the Prismo. The valve seemed to open at a very low pressure, and I don't think anybody ever made any crema with it. Compared to that one, I think the Joe Presso is actually quite a bit better. In my opinion, the Prismo just made strong coffee, whereas this makes something I'd call real espresso. So if you have a Prismo at home and you like the idea and you want something better, then this one is kind of ideal. The next thing I'd compare it to is the Keflano Compresso. The Keflano has a real naked basket, so this is something quite different. It does take some trial and error, but with this one you can get even better shots, or at least what coffee snobs would consider better shots. Personally, I like the Keflano, but it does require a bit more of the user. You will have to dial it in and you will probably need a better grinder. I think it's somewhere around $70, $80 at the moment. The Joe Presso is $40 if you back it on Kickstarter. In some of the brews I did off camera, I tried the Joe Presso with a regular grind size for espresso and it completely choked. You just couldn't get any liquid out. So I actually had to back off quite a bit and use something a lot coarser. So this means that you can use most burr grinders. For this one here, a Baratin Core for sure, a Hario Pollux probably would work fine as well. But with this one here, you need a more dedicated espresso grinder. At the moment, Joe Presso's Kickstarter campaign isn't fully funded, so they still need a bit more to reach their target. There are some big companies who just use crowdfunding to test out ideas and get some publicity, but it definitely seems like Joe Presso is just a small two-man operation who will actually need the funding. I hope that they do reach their goal because I think it's actually a cool and unique product. With Kickstarters there are always some risks, and that's also the case here, but according to the campaign, the production and fulfillment of the first round of backers is actually only a couple of months away. If you're a person who's making a lot of lattes or espresso style coffee with your AeroPress already, I think you should consider backing these guys. Now, I don't really consider this a product review. This is more like a first impression kind of thing. I've just had the Joepresso for a couple of days, so I don't know how it's gonna hold up long term. But the idea, the execution, and my initial impression is that it's a solid product that could deserve a spot in your home brewing setup. I also have to say that I really like the idea that the AeroPress is an ecosystem you can kind of like plug into and make new products like the Puck and some of the other things we've seen. But I'm also curious about what you guys think. Do you think it's a cool idea to make espresso with an AeroPress? Can you live with a pressurized basket? Are you interested in Kickstarter product reviews like this one at all? Let me know down in the comment section below. That's it for today. I'll see you in another coffee video very soon.